Buttigieg is also fending off attacks from Joe Biden in the fight for moderate voters.
This guy's not a Barack Obama.
Well, he's right. I'm not Barack Obama, and neither is he. Neither is anyone running for president right now. And this isn't 2008. It's 2020.
Is this Mickey Mouse on your hat now?
Biden has already predicted a poor showing in New Hampshire, but he's still trying to fight for every vote.
I'm Joe. It's good to see you.
I know you, Joe.
Take me over, okay?
And so is Elizabeth Warren, who needs a strong finish here to move forward. Today, Warren trying to change minds at the Sweet Maple Cafe.
Still on the fence, so what are you going to say to change my mind?
Wow! One campaign is seeing a new burst of energy.
So as you've probably heard, we're on a bit of a surge.
Full house. It's a good sign.
After her strong debate performance, Amy Klobuchar is drawing her largest numbers yet.
What is it going to take to translate and harness all of that enthusiasm into actual votes?
That is asking them to help me in these last 24 hours. I am the only candidate that went from the Rotary Club of Nashua, where I was asked to speak, to this rally. But I think that is how you build this big coalition.
Pulling out all the stops.
All the stops.
And Mary Bruce joins us now from a Sanders campaign rally in Durham, New Hampshire. So set the scene for us there, Mary. And how is this battle between Buttigieg and Sanders playing out?
Well, Lindsay, you can certainly feel here tonight why it is that Bernie Sanders is leading here in New Hampshire. This is a massive rally. People are still filling in. His supporters have been waiting for hours outside in the cold. The line was stretching for blocks to get in. It feels a little bit more like a rock concert in here. And of course, this comes as we are seeing that intense matchup between Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg. They have been crisscrossing this state, lobbing fierce attacks at one another. I spoke with Pete Buttigieg earlier today. It seems he's trying to make this a two-person race, Lindsay.
Also, a new poll out today. It shows some warning signs for the Biden campaign. Explain a little bit about what it says and how his campaign is moving forward.
Well, remember, they, of course, have already conceded that they are likely facing another disappointing finish here in New Hampshire tomorrow. And then today we saw a new national polling that shows that Joe Biden is slipping. Bernie Sanders in the lead in this new Quinnipiac poll at 25%. Joe Biden down at 17%. And a surprise here, Michael Bloomberg now in third place at 15%. And, of course, Lindsay, he isn't even campaigning here in New Hampshire. Instead, he is building a huge organization and putting millions of dollars into other states. These numbers showing that strategy could be paying off.
All right, Mary Bruce, right from impeachment to the campaign trail. We appreciate it, Mary. Thank you. The Democratic race certainly front and center, but President Trump is also making his presence felt in New Hampshire tonight, holding his first post-impeachment rally in Manchester. We'll take a live look now as the president, he just took the stage moments ago to rally his supporters. ABC News Chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl's at the president's rally and joins me now. Looks like a full house there right behind you. Just give us a sense of how enthused President Trump's base is, especially by his acquittal.
Lindsay, Trump supporters are as fired up as I have ever seen them. I mean, this rally is in an arena that I was at just 2 nights ago, Saturday night, at an event that included all of the major Democratic nominees, candidates for the Democratic nomination. And we have a bigger crowd here by far just for Donald Trump than we had on Saturday for all of the Democrats. Some of these people were waiting out line starting yesterday. And trust me, Manchester, New Hampshire, it is cold, it is rainy, snow on the ground. They're waiting more than 24 hours, some of them, to come here. So, yes, Trump supporters are very energized. You've got the impeachment acquittal, good news on the economy, and Democrats coming out of Iowa seem to be in disarray. They feel like they're on the winning side. And also, by the way, Trump's approval rating has hit its highest level ever. But think about it, Lindsay, that approval rating is still, in the Gallup poll, 49%, less than half the country. So even at the high watermark, arguably for the Trump presidency, he has a tough battle ahead regardless of who the Democrats nominate.
And it looks like he's in full swing campaign mode at this point. What's the strategy there with going head-to-head with Democrats this early?
Well, you know, one part of the strategy is to try to pick off some states that they didn't win last time. New Hampshire, right here is a state that he lost by a little over 2,700 votes. It was the closest loss they had, the closest margin for any of the other states. So they believe that they can turn around, pick off a state like this. They're also looking at Arizona, Minnesota, maybe even New Mexico. But it's an interesting thing to watch. They are clearly trying to appeal to suburban voters who have been badly alienated by Trump's rhetoric, by a number of issues. So he's trying to find a way to appeal to some of those voters. But at the same time, Trump's instinct coming out of this impeachment process is to have retribution, revenge for his enemies, exactly the kind of things that don't necessarily play well for those suburban voters that his campaign knows he's going to need to win re-election.
We can hear the boos and the applause behind you. Lots of enthusiasm and energy. John Carl, live for us in New Hampshire tonight. Thanks so much, John. Meanwhile, President Trump also weighed in on the coronavirus outbreak today. Trump said that he spoke to China's president, who told President Trump the virus will be gone by April due to the heat from the change in seasons. Disease specialists are hopeful, but they warn that the virus is new and difficult to predict. China has been largely criticized for downplaying or covering up the seriousness of the outbreak. And as we saw earlier, President Xi was seen in public today wearing a surgical mask, trying to calm fears. Meanwhile, there are 3,700 people, including nearly 24 Americans, trapped under quarantine on a cruise ship in China. The ship's captain today announced that the number of confirmed cases has doubled. We're going to go live to Maggie Rulli in Japan in just a moment, but first she has the latest on the desperate containment efforts.
These chilling new images now emerging on Chinese social media showing the drastic steps taken to try to stop the spread of that virus. Quarantine teams seen dragging a couple from their apartment after they reportedly refused to self-quarantine. And tonight, this self-described citizen journalist who has defied the Chinese government to report on shortages of masks and protective clothing hasn't been heard from in days. The virus has now sickened over 40,000 and killed 910 people, including the first American, a 60-year-old in Wuhan. Over the weekend, in just 24 hours, nearly 100 people died, the deadliest day yet. Overnight, the cases aboard that quarantine cruise ship off Japan doubling to 135. At least 23 of those infected are Americans, including Rebecca Frazier from Oregon, who is still hospitalized.
It doesn't even feel like a cold, to be perfectly honest. I wouldn't have known that there was anything wrong with me if they hadn't tested me.
Her husband tested negative, but is stuck on the ship for 8 more days, along with 3,700 others, as more passengers get sick.
It's just scary hearing the numbers increase.
Newlyweds Milena Basso and her husband Gaetano Cerullo fear they could be next.
It's just slowly creeping up, so it's making us think us being on here, are we just prone to this scenario to happen?
Despite the worries on board, the CDC says there's no evidence the virus can spread through the ship's ventilation system. Back in China today, President Xi Jinping making a rare visit to a health center in Beijing, wearing a mask